team, it's Gina Brooks, and today we are going to talk about holiday celebrations in 2020 and what they're going to look like this year as opposed to previous years. The holidays are always a very stressful time for people. Now in 2020, this year is going to be extremely stressful. So you have your regular holiday blues or stressful time worrying about all the things that the holiday brings, right? It's just known to be more of a stressful period of time. Now we have COVID, and that's going to change a lot of things, or it should change a lot of things on how we're going to be celebrating this year. So I want to go over a few things about holiday blues, depression, how you can prevent some of those things, or at least be prepared for it. Regardless if you've never suffered from depression or not, most people, it is shown, have an elevated level of stress. There's more mental health issues than there ever have been before because of the stressors that COVID has brought to many people's lives, their health, loss of loved ones, loss of work, the issues with parents having to stay home and take care of their children and help with school. There's so many additional stressors on top of our normal stressors. I think the best way we can make this year manageable is to be responsible and to prepare for some of these things we already know we're going to experience because we experience them every year, right? Okay, so first I'm going to give you some tips on how to deal with the normal holiday blues. Now, you guys know I've always been really honest about my anxiety and depression. And I know that a lot of people do get seasonal depression. Now, mine's pretty much every season, but I have learned how to manage it. Matter of fact, a lot of people are actually surprised that I have depression, but I have been very responsible in how I deal with it. So it's a daily thing. I think people who really know me or my family probably see it more than maybe my coworkers or friends. But I have learned all the coping mechanisms I need to get through those moments and bouts of depression. I want to share some of those with you, but also I want us to talk about how to have a healthy and responsible Thanksgiving and Christmas, New Year's this year, because things have to be different. And each of us has to be committed to doing it different this year, not just for our health, but for the health of our family and friends. And that just adds on, right? That it's not going to be the same this year, adds on to that stress. So how do we deal with that? Well, for one thing, let's just admit what we're feeling. I think that we all try to pretend that we're okay. There's this lack of vulnerability in human beings. It's like if we say that we're not okay, that means we're weak. No, we need to admit when we're not okay and ask for help when needed. So my first tip is to acknowledge your feelings. If you're feeling sad, acknowledge it. If you've lost someone, acknowledge it. I lost my father recently, and I think that typically I kind of push things down initially and keep myself really busy, but eventually it hits you and you really have to find a way to cope. But do it your way. No one can tell you how you can deal with loss or illness. Do it your way. If you need time, take that time. But don't ignore what you're feeling. Make sure that you acknowledge it. It's really important. Also, reach out. When I'm feeling upset, I will literally call my best friend or go walk to her office real quick and vent. I think sometimes I need that someone to talk to, someone that's going to either listen or lift me up or tell me the truth that I'm being, ridiculous about something. And so reach out to someone that you trust, that you can express how you really feel so that you can get some of those feelings out. And sometimes when you get perspective from someone else, it really is helpful to give you ways to adjust how you're feeling, because you're not alone. every single person has at some point, maybe not as deeply as me or some other people that suffer from more extreme anxiety and depression, but most people have experienced some kind of tragedy, some kind of loss, whether it be a relationship or a loved one. People are very understanding. So go to that trusted person and reach out to them. Don't be alone right now. So if you're feeling alone, get up. Go make a phone call. Go for a walk. I always tell my daughter that, she unfortunately, she didn't get my height, but she did get my depression. So I'm able to really talk her through what she's going through because she knows that I'm someone that's not going to judge her and that I've experienced it throughout my life, and I'm able to give her coping mechanisms. So I know when she's down and she's in a dark room, lying in bed, listening to depressing music, I flick on that light. I tell her to get up, get dressed. We're going to go shopping. We're going to go for a walk. We're going to go do something. So it's important to get out of your head, and reaching out to someone that might understand is an excellent way. Okay. So another thing of how to handle the holidays, and I don't know if you're like me, I go all out for the holidays. Of course, I complain about how much I hate the holidays for like 6 months before the holidays, but then I spend like a week decorating my house where it looks like Santa Claus threw up all over it. So I'm obviously into it. But years and years and years ago, I used to really stress myself out because I love to make things for people. I'm not one of those people I'm more sentimental about things. I don't really care about like someone giving me a gift card. I really like people to surprise me. So I always think, well, people want the same thing, right? So I was in the habit of making, these very elaborate calendars for 4 or 5 people that I cared deeply about. And I would make these homemade mistletoe and all this really extreme stuff. Well, eventually it was causing me more stress than it was actually being something that was pleasurable. So I let it go. I mean, I have to say it was hard, but I let those things go. And so I try to find something that's realistic that I can still hand make and do that's from my heart, which is baking cookies and breads and candies. That's kind of my thing this year. Well, actually, it's been the last several years. So find something that you can handle. You don't have to be perfect. Your house does not have to be perfect. Last year, we didn't even put our Christmas lights up. We ran out of time. I imagine this year, we're not going to put our Christmas lights up. It's not that important. So be realistic about what you can do and what you can't do. And be okay with things not being exactly the way you may want them to be this year. You got a lot going on, a lot of stress. Also, stick to a budget. I'm not good at this, but I think a lot of us, mostly those that are unemployed or had some financial loss this year because of COVID, they are going to have to budget. There is nothing important enough to go into debt for. We only need so many sweaters and socks from grandma. It's okay to say, hey gang, this year, let's just spend time together. How about we forego spending all this money on gifts for one another that we actually don't need? I know I don't. And when I go out shopping, my problem is it's like I get a gift for, Bob, and then I give a gift for myself. So I end up spending double, right? So why not just do the number, pull a name out of the hat, or forgo the gifts altogether. And maybe as a family, why don't you adopt a family that doesn't have as much, or volunteer, or do something that's more meaningful. And that will save you a lot of money, a lot of stress, and you could possibly doing something good for someone who actually needs a sweater, right? So think about it. Another thing is learn to say no. Sometimes I think we feel this pressure. One of the things I've been wanting to do for years, and I plan on doing it one of these Christmases, is not doing Christmas and going on a vacation in lieu of doing Christmas. Because I always find it so I don't know. I'm just not a super fan of the whole, like, everyone's running around. You spend all this time wrapping presents and then in 5 seconds, gifts are flying. I don't, that's not me. It's not my thing. But sometimes I think you feel pressure because, maybe your other family members like to do that and you feel a little bit of pressure. Learn to say no. So maybe next year I'm just going to say no and take my family on a trip instead. So be okay with that. Be okay during this time with COVID and everything else going on to be able to say no, okay? And also, don't abandon healthy habits. Okay, this whole COVID, I've abandoned healthy habits, but maybe just be mindful of all the goodies that I'm going to probably send you guys. Be mindful of that and continue to work out and exercise fitness. And it's getting colder out. Try to do something inside. Maybe exercise with your children. I've been trying to get my kids to work out with me. So there are some things that you can do inside. Matter of fact, I have some fitness videos on my YouTube channel that you are watching now. So why don't you subscribe and watch some of my videos? All of them you can do at home. Anyway, take a breather. Take some time to yourself during the holidays, during COVID. Don't overwhelm yourself with all the planning and the stresses and I have to do this and I have to make sure this is done by that. No, you don't. No, you don't. No one's telling you you have to do that but you. You're the only person that puts that pressure on yourself. Just say no, relax, take a hot bath, have some cocoa, sit by the fire, watch a movie with your family, relax. It's gonna be okay. So, okay, that's the fun stuff on how to deal with stress. And also, like, if you really do suffer from seasonal depression or holiday blues and going to your friend is just not enough, reach out and get help. Most companies, my company has an employee assistance program. And matter of fact, I insured one of the things that was number one to me this year is to get an enhanced EAP program for my employees because I understand that mental health and stress and everything having to do with COVID has added so many additional things on employees that I wanted them to be able to have an outlet. This is the most underutilized program most employers offer. If you don't know about your EAP program or if you don't know your employer has one, ask. My employees, I will be sending you stuff out religiously. Please make those calls. There's a lot of great benefits from those EAP programs. Okay, so what do I want to ask you to do this year during the holidays? And it's going to be hard for many of you, and many of you will not do this. I am. We need to have smaller holiday gatherings. It's going to be rough. We have to make this commitment or this terrible infection will never go away and is going to continue to spread. CDC is a great resource. If you haven't gone online, they give all kinds of tips on how to have a safe holiday season. And one of the things that I want to stress is the importance of having those smaller gatherings. If you are used to having huge gatherings, I beg you to scale down those gatherings. You can even do like a Zoom multiple family get together, exchange. There's all kinds of creative ways that you guys can be together without physically being together, right? And if you do have these celebrations, CDC suggests obviously that you do it outside. Well, where are you going to do that outside? Many people live in the snow. It's colder in the winters. It's really, really difficult. That's why during this winter season and fall seasons, the CDC is very concerned about the spread of COVID because of the fact that more people will be indoors in smaller spaces together, right? We're not even able to eat outside in certain places if it is snowing, raining, right? So that's really the problem, is being in smaller places where there's not a lot of air ventilation to keep the spread from just reaching out to everyone. Okay, you really have no choice but to be inside right now. But be smart, protect your family. I know too many people, matter of fact, someone I care deeply about, his dad is not doing well from COVID right now. And I'm sure he would do anything to be with him at this time and is unable to. I don't want any of you to be in that same situation just to be able to have a piece of turkey together, or just to be able to have, a Christmas celebration. Think of the bigger picture, scale down this year, okay? And another thing they say is to beware of traveling, buses, planes, trains, automobiles, anywhere where you're out in the public, you are having a higher risk to being exposed to other people. You have no control over someone else that might have COVID or might not even know they have COVID, and you end up being on a plane or a bus with them. And regardless of our masks, it's not 100% COVID proof. So be conscientious of not traveling this year. Let's get this under control before we go back to life as we used to know, okay? And then durations of gatherings. If you do have a gathering, you still need to be mindful of that 6 feet apart, mask wearing, washing our hands. They even suggest, which to me is strange, but it makes sense, bringing your own food for yourself during these gatherings. I have a feeling that won't happen. These are just some suggestions that CDC has. And the number of people, obviously the smaller group that you have, the less chance that you can, you're lessening your chance of getting COVID because you're able to socially distance more, okay? That still doesn't protect you 100%, right? So I just hope that you all do your best this year, and even inquire what your family members that you're having over were doing before they came over, right? How do you know what their regular behavior is in terms of wearing a mask? I still know many family members of mine who don't believe in wearing a mask and who don't support this whole COVID thing. So those are the types of people I would probably be weary about having over to my home during COVID. So there's all kinds of wonderful resources, all kinds of great suggestions and tips that you can get by going to cdc.com. I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to be mindful of yourself and your family. I want you to be healthy. I want us to go into 2021 in a safer, healthier world where we can all grow and be happy. If at any time you feel that you need help, reach out. There's numbers you can call to ask for help. This year's going to be different, but we're going to get through it, you guys. I believe in you. I know you can do it. We're going to do it together. Until next week, toodles. Bye.